Hello, this is Fundamental of Programming course CO1027. In this session, we are going to talk about structured programming. So far, we discussed a lot about flow controls, right? We talk about loops control. Those are essential components of structured programming. And so here we are going to talk about what is structured programming in general. Okay. The first thing you may note that in structured programming, we are going to utilize a lot of functions, right? Using subroutine, some block structure that include if, else, switch, and some loops inside your programs. Okay, so that's it. It utilized the data structure, some function, some subroutine, control structure. That's it. All right. So there are a lot of structured programming language that you can find in the world. Here, just a very short list of some names. Amongst them, there is Pascal that you may know it before. There are something like PLI or Ada is not so popular, but obviously you see here C and C++ are really popular. Okay. And the language C++ we are using here is actually not a structured programming language. It's neither object-oriented programming language. It's a kind of hybrid between them, because there is a history between C, the pure structured programming language, and the object-oriented programming language. Okay, that's for the definitions. And here we go. You see that in structured programming you are going to utilize a lot of loops on the array, and this is not the mandatory requirement, but for most of case we are going to use this thing over and over again. Okay, and there's one recommendation that when you work with some fixed data size like array or string, then it is better to use finite loop. Okay. Well, that's enough for some concept about structured programming language. What I really want to do here is try to show you how you can bring the solution for a particular problems into well, the real code. Okay. So first thing, let's take a look at the following example. The request is that you should roll the following figure in terminal. Okay, this figure, right? Okay, and there we go. We have an input n, which represent the number of lines you have to print out. In this particular case, it's 5, so you have 5 rows. And yes, the output is the following thing, right? So when you do the analysis, you will come up with a loops, right? You want to bring out row by rows, and for that reason, what you are going to do here is try to make sense of every single rows. What is the row here? You may choose the index from 1 or 0. It's up to you. In my case, I will, let's say the first row will have the index 0. It's more convenient in my case, so I decide to put index for each row by a number. Okay, and then let's observe the behavior of this output in order to perform some calculations. First thing you may note is that there are some space before you can bring out that star, right? So in particular, if you are at the row I, then you may see that the number of space you have to bring out here is actually you can estimate using the exact number here. Let's say the row 0, the number should be n minus I minus 1, right? And okay, that's easy for you if I pick the index from 0. Alright, and then what happens? You have to print out I plus 1 star, right? And of course you may have several ways to write the code, so let me bring out another loops inside each row, right? I should have a loop to bring out some space. The number of stars should be, well, I plus 1, right? Then you may have a loops for printing the space and the loop to print out the star, and it depends on what you want to represent in the output, and it will be very different. So first I'm going to implement the simplest solution for you. Hopefully you can get what I mean. Okay, I'm going to clean up some code here. Okay, and then let me clean up my code. Alright, let me have n. Okay, well, before we jump any further, I will demonstrate for you every single problems that you may encounter when you read and write data. Okay, I did talk about how you input before, but here I want you to capture everything. Okay, it's related to the loops. Now I want to read number n, right? So let me ask the user, please input the number of rows. It's kind of normal, right? So you are going to perform, well, sorry, read n. Okay, if everything is this simple, then the situation is nothing wrong, but normally you cannot control what user input. So what I want to do here is that checking whether the user input the right thing or not. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I will put the loops and I'm going to check whether the user input the right number or not, because n obviously must be a positive number. It should not be 0 or negative, right? So let's say 2 and well, y and smaller than 0. I'm going to skip the code. Okay, so if everything is simple like this, then fine, you can get away with it as long as you put the assumption that user input correctly. Okay, let me print out something here, well, just for a test. So alright, look, if everything is normal, let the user input something like -1, then you will ask the user input again. Alright, and if I input 0, then you have 0, right? It's look easy. Now what if I do something weird? Okay, let me show you. I will run the code again, and here I'm going to input -1. Okay, obviously I input the wrong number. Okay, and well, this is bad because, well, what if I input A? This is so wrong. Your program exits right way. Why is that? Can you guess? Well, there are several things you have to consider in these situations, right? First thing, when you try to read the number, obviously user may input something wrong, and the behavior of thing here is that if user input something wrong, then your console will turn on the error flag, and the default value of that number, in this case is n, will be set to 0 for this number. And you exit the loop and you see the number 0 here in the console. That's not the behavior that I really want. I want user to input a positive number, right? So the looping condition should be y n is smaller or equal 0. Now think about it. If you put the condition this way, then as the user input the wrong thing and is set to 0, then you end up with the true condition right here. And next time the loops will ask you to input again. No. Let me show you. I'm going to input -1 just for example, and then I input A. Watch carefully. What you see is that we are going to end up with a really bad situation. This is an infinite loop. Okay, you see a lot of text are there, just keep printing, but the code right here actually do nothing. Okay, the reason why, because when the input console turn on the error flag, it cannot read anything else, and this reading operation will fail. Okay, so how to solve this problem? The first thing you have to know is that you better clear the flag, the error flag of this console. Okay, so what to do? Well, if you input something, and I'm going to check if scene is not good. Okay, if not, if the input console is not good, then I'm going to do something. Well, I'm going to clear the flag. Let's say clear. This will clear all the flag of the console, and when you clear the flag, it's literally enable the console to read again. But is that good? I don't think so. Let's run. Alright, let me input -1, just like you see before. Let me input A. You end up with an infinite loop again. So why? Well, let me explain to you this. The situation is when you input something wrong, okay, the console will turn on the error flag, the bad bit, and even if you clear the flag, still that characters that I enter still stay in the buffer, right? It's still there, and next time I do read here, I read A, that cause the console to fail again, and still A in the buffer, it stay there forever. Okay, so if you literally want to clean the buffer of the input console, what you are going to do is using the ignore method. Now ignore will take one argument. That argument is the number of characters you want to ignore in the buffer. You may use some very large number. Okay, it's up to you. In my case, I think that no one will input a lot of data anyway. So let me put up a very large number. Let's say, okay, I think this is large enough. Okay, 2 more, right? The second parameters of this function is optional, but well, you can have it. It's the end line characters. In my case, I want to stop ignoring when I see the end line characters. So basically, I'm going to ignore everything until you press enter. Alright. In case you are using the 5 for your input stream, then it will read the whole line and then jump into the next line. Alright, so this is what happens. when I do so, I rerun the code, what you are going to see is that it asks me to read again, right? I may input something wrong, then it waits for me to input again. So let's say 5, you get 5, right? Okay, so that is how you handle the input. I didn't talk about this very often, but sometimes just want to give you very quick informations on this, right? Okay, let me jump into the main code. Let me have a variable, the color, that represents the index of each line starting from 0. While I is smaller than n, I'm going to increase I. So we have here, oh sorry, what is that? My mistake, sorry. Cool. Then we will have a loops right here. Now for every single row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out, I'm using another variable j. Let's say j run from n minus 1 minus I. While j is greater than 0, I will decrease j for every single loops. Then I print out what? The space. Okay, just like the idea that I explained to you before. And then I want to print out I plus 1 star. Okay, well, don't miss the space at the end. So if I do so, what I can do is for integer j run from I plus 1, j greater than 0, j minus. What I can do here is I print out, well, sorry, star and space. Okay, and in the end, at the end of the line, you better print out the end line characters. Okay, so let me run this code. Let's say I want to test with 5. Okay, everything looks great like you see in the picture, but if you note carefully, there is one extra space character at the end of each line, and that is wrong. Actually, the requirement of the problems doesn't ask you to bring any extra space over there. Now when it comes to automatic grading, you will see when you compare your output with my output, you fail because you have extra space. So if you want to do this correctly, what you have to change is that you may note that every single line have at least 1 star. So it is better for you to print out the star first. Okay, and then instead of printing out I plus 1 star and space, we are going to print out only I star, but space and star. Okay, and this is the better one, the correct one. Okay, same thing, but if you note, there is no extra space character at the end. Okay, well, that sounds cool, but we can even do it, well, make it better. Let me tell you. You see here, I have to print out a lot of space right here, right? Which actually not what I want. I just ignore this one, make my light better by set width for these characters. Now what is the width? It is supposed to be n minus I. Okay, and if I run this code, what you see is that same thing, but the code looks better, shorter, and still do the same job. Okay, so you can become very creative when you code. Sometimes you may end up with a better solution than my solution. Okay, try to be creative, try to think out several ways to write the code. The algorithms actually similar, but sometimes you can write a lot of different code just do the same thing. So don't tell me that there's a single solution. No, we can have several way to implement your algorithms. Okay, and that's what I want you to remember about the algorithms, the how to utilize the structured programming scheme, and using some input output method. Okay, these are some side note of the lecture. Alright, there are some other problems that I think you may take note and try to do it at home, and you actually can find out a bunch of other problems and do it at home. So try to work hard and do your homework. Thank you.